welcome to another episode of Fueling Conversations, a Sport Nutrition Education Network podcast with Dr. James Fleming. Today we're joined by Issy Morris, an ex-elite triathlete turned sports nutritionist. Issy's story is one of resilience and reinvention, from representing Great Britain and Wales at the Commonwealth Games and European Championships to facing an unexpected early retirement that led her into a new passion of sports nutrition. She opens up about her injuries and illnesses during her undergraduate years that sparked her interest in nutrition, including her personal experience with Red S and osteopenia. Now a nutritionist at Bristol City Football Club, Issy shares the challenges and rewards of working in a male-dominated environment, the importance of individualised nutrition strategies, and how strong communication underpins effective athlete care. This episode offers a powerful blend of lived experience, professional insight, and practical advice for athletes and those that support them. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, and welcome to another podcast for the Sports Nutrition Education Network. What? That's my coffee machine. Can you hear that?
No.
It sounds so middle class. We can't listen because it's like these guys are not making too much money with this friggin' thing going mad. All right, let's start again. All right. Hang on. We can tell we haven't done this in a while, Issy. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another podcast for the Sports Nutrition Education Network. Today, we're lucky to be joined by Issy Morris, who is an ex-St Mary's alumni, athlete, as well as sports nutritionist. So, as normal, we're just going to start by kind of saying hi, Issy, and thanks for joining us. And then can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I think we're going to delve into your kind of athletic triathlon career and then delve into what you've done kind of during and post the MSc.
Hi, James and Sinead. Well, firstly, thanks so much for having me on. So I guess in terms of my background, I was an elite triathlete. I try and always think around from what age. I think, to be honest, as long as I can remember, sport was kind of a big priority in my life, if I'm honest. But I joined the National Triathlon Performance Centre based in Cardiff when I was maybe 16. So I first represented Great Britain for triathlon at the age of 15. So that was probably my first kind of big exposure to the elite kind of racing. And then, went on to represent Wales at the Commonwealth Games in 2022 and also Great Britain at the European Championships in Munich in 2022. And then decided to retire at the age of 23. So beginning of 2023. And then since then, I've gone on to pursue a career in sport nutrition. So, as James said, I went to St Mary's and did my master's there. And I'm currently working as the head nutritionist for Bristol City Football Club for the men's and women's first team, and then do some bits additionally on the side.
Very cool.
Amazing.
Can you...
What? Go. I say, when you were sort of competing, and from a young age onwards, was nutrition, or when did nutrition become something that you were aware of as genuinely being important to you, rather than just someone telling you needed to eat? At what point did it become a priority?
I know, it's interesting because I remember when I was swimming, my mum used to give me a protein shake on the way back from swimming, which I absolutely hated. But looking back now, I know nutritionally it was not something I needed, but it was just something that kind of parents jumped on the bandwagon and it was like, oh, go on, you need this will help. So I think I was always interested from the point of view of if it's going to help kind of my performance and development, then that's great. But I think I probably really started taking interest in it when I don't know, because obviously I did my master's in it, so there was obviously the interest there from kind of that age, but my undergrad wasn't nutrition based, so I think it was probably I guess probably towards my final year of undergrad, I think that I started kind of getting an interest. I suppose through kind of injuries and illnesses that I faced, I think I probably kind of started realising the importance of nutrition, and potentially where I hadn't quite got it right, but also kind of the education I think that is quite often out there. So I guess that was probably a turning point for me.
Okay. In that injury and illness process, was it you who kind of came to the realization, or was it sort of the team around you, or a bit of both?
I think it was probably a bit of both, but for me, I think the major turning point for me was when I had a DEXA scan. So to go into like full detail, I had the contraceptive implant, and I had that taken out around lockdown time because I'd started getting interested in kind of nutrition and wanted to know that I was having kind of a natural cycle. And when that was removed, I then didn't get a return of my cycle. So I knew that something wasn't right then. And then I had a DEXA scan and that showed osteopenia, which really, really shocked me because in terms of my performances, I was probably doing the best I ever had. Like everything was going in the right direction. So yeah, it was kind of a big kind of, I guess, scary kind of turning point where I realized something's not right. And that's kind of, I had no warning signs at all. Like I was performing the best I ever had. So it was a big shock. And then I think hindsight is kind of a wonderful thing. I look back and I had glandular fever the year that I joined university. And my performances again were still going well. But I think when I look back and think, right, you'd left home, you were cooking for yourself, your training volume had increased dramatically because suddenly you're living on site. I used to kind of drive an hour to training. So kind of the amount you could physically fit in around school was just kind of hugely impactful, hugely impacted the amount I could do. So I think there were kind of quite a few factors that I hadn't quite pieced together.
Okay, interesting. Had you ever had stress fractures or not
No.
at all?
Yeah, no.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was kind of, yeah, it was really interesting to see that kind of impact, really.
How did the DEXA come around? Were you recommended that, or was that just like your own investigation again? Because a lot of people don't get the DEXAs, right? Irrespective of you being a high level athlete.
Yeah, no, it was all through kind of my own investigation. So I think I started just doing my own research and came across Renee McGregor, who does a lot in kind of the red S space. And I was thinking, you know, I think I've obviously not fueled enough the amount of training I was doing. I had quite a few symptoms of REDS and I thought I wanted to look into it in a bit more detail. And then I came across a doctor called Dr. Nikki Hayes and Nikki Kay. And she referred me on to the DEXA scan. So that was where kind of I joined the dots. And I went into that DEXA scan so naive because I just thought, well, it's all going to be fine, like tick the box. It was just kind of to work out whether I had REDS or not. And yeah, that was kind of a big turning point for me.
That's interesting.
How did you cope with seeing those results and kind of what you did next?
To be honest, I think I didn't really realize how difficult it had been until kind of a year or two later, where I realized how hard it was, because the advice I got given was stop all sport. Like you literally can't do anything. And for me, as someone who's literally done exercise her whole life, it is my life. It was so hard, like so hard. And I think, I don't know, like I try to keep myself busy and things like that. But I think now that I know a lot more in this kind of space, I don't know if I would have, I think I learned a lot from that process, but it was a whole year away from sport that I think, you know, REDS is a big aspect of it. And I think my stress levels, because I couldn't exercise, very high. So yeah, it was difficult.
Were you exposed to like a medical doctor or a sports doctor? I asked that question because I feel like there's like sometimes a gap. Like I've spoken to a few athletes that get told, you know, that you've got osteoporosis, osteopenia, and therefore you stop, even though you, in principle, your bones are still developing, right? As someone in their early 20s, female, and they get told to stop because there's those danger risks associated. So did you see a general doctor, or did you have a specialist that said, you know, maybe you can do a bit, or because I think there's a little bit of a disconnect sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's what I found that made that kind of process so difficult is we went to see so many different doctors, like specialists, through kind of NHS and in the space. But because Red S is kind of a relatively new term, I spent every single consultation that I went into telling them what Red S was. And it was quite a frustrating process, but it's kind of no fault of their own. It's not their fault that it's not something that they're taught. But I think that was something that really drove me to think I kind of want, it's kind of why I'm working in the space now, because I want to try and make some changes, because it's, it was very difficult.
So in terms of that as well, because it is so unknown, it sounds like it was unknown by the people who were looking after you to a degree. When it came to returning to do exercise, was that something that they were able to give guidance on, or did you kind of, from your own knowledge by that point, because presumably you were doing or had done your masters in that period as well?
I ended up splitting my masters. So I went in, kind of, James will be able to vouch, where I thought, I'm going to do it all in a year. I'll be absolutely fine. And then I don't know at what point I turned to James and I was like, I'm going to have to split it. I can't, it's too much. So yeah, that took 2 years in the end. But I think it was when I started my masters, I was coming towards the end of it and just about to start back training. But I ended up seeing kind of a specialist gynecologist, because that was kind of my main concern. Obviously concerned about my bone health, but in terms of kind of fertility in the future, that was something that I really, really wanted to protect. And when I saw him, he kind of, he's the one I've got to thank for kind of getting back into sport, because like we've since found out, I think I did have Red S, but I naturally have kind of low estrogen and things. There's other things going on, so I was, in a sense, waiting for something that potentially wasn't going to happen anyway.
Going to come.
So he was kind of hugely impactful, and just basically was amazing. So he helped me get back to sport, and then once I'd kind of had the green light from that doctor, it was just working with my coach to make sure that we built up the training gradually. And then I worked with a nutritionist, but I kind of knew what I needed to do fueling wise anyway from that point, that just to make sure I had kind of everything in place.
Then you've completely fast tracked, right? Because I remember being like, James, I need to sort of deal with some bits. And I was like, cool, you do what you need to do. And then you were like, I'm going to start training a bit more. I was like, sweet. And I knew a little bit, because I still remember your application form. You had like this really nice kind of CV that had like, I was like, oh, there's this student called Issy Morris coming in. Apparently she's kind of a big deal. And I was like, all right, I don't know much about it. And then you started training, and like 6 months later, you're like, James, I might be going to the Commonwealth Games. I was like, whoa, this has gone quick. So how did you, because I imagine psychologically, like from managing, self-diagnosing, really going through a process that a lot of athletes probably wouldn't do until it's too late, or maybe till they retrospectively look back on their career. How did you go back into full load training while still being a student and managing that in a safe way with that still, osteopenia aspect kind of still hanging over your head?
Yeah, I think I just had kind of full confidence in the doctor that I was working with, and also with my coach. My coach is he's literally like my second dad. I think we started working when I was kind of 15. So through kind of all of those ages, he's kind of was such a huge kind of influence on getting me to where I got to. So I think, and my coach even kind of had calls with the doctor. So we'd have three-way calls. So there was like a really great kind of communication piece going on. And I think I was just so motivated and so driven, kind of having had that whole year out, that I was so desperate to get back to it. And I think it was so difficult, because when I was told to stop sport for a year, we'd literally just come out of COVID, and I had spent the whole of COVID training so hard. Like, I think my coach was saying, I remember him saying to me, it's interesting because some athletes kind of took a bit of a deload time and just kind of ticked over, where I was like, right, this is the time I'm going to improve my riding, like I'm going to do like all of these things. So I was so motivated, did so much training, and then I had to stop, and I was so it was difficult, but I think that's how I kind of coped with it all, because I guess it gave me a bit of perspective of how lucky I was to be actually able to train and do it.
Oh, amazing. And then I guess taking a slight tangent then from your experience as an athlete into now being a nutritionist with other athletes? And this might be a bit of a difficult question, but what do you think are some of the things that through your own experience have impacted the way you work as a practitioner as well?
I think just kind of being open and honest and keeping kind of as much communication as you can. I think, there's things that I guess, I don't know, certain comments I guess that you've had as an athlete that you think, I don't know, I guess it's kind of a nature of sport. You're always going to hear kind of comments, but I think for me, it's just making sure that you're kind of looking after kind of the athlete as a person, like they're not just an athlete, and having that awareness. And I think I was really lucky in that respect, that I was definitely kind of, my coach and I had a saying of like happy athlete, fast athlete. And I think like it's so true for kind of everyone doing sport. Like if you kind of, I don't know, put too much pressure on the individual, then I don't know, some might perform, but I think kind of sport is never always going to be an upwards trajectory. So I think as long as you're looking after them holistically, then you should be kind of along the right path. So that's definitely kind of what I try to do.
In terms of that kind of looking after athletes and your awareness now, I guess, because I remember your dissertation, you were looking at some of your training group that had high training load, looking at some of their energy intake, and anecdotally, we kind of saw that it's very hard for triathletes, particularly high-level triathletes, to meet training demands. How has your experiences now as a nutritionist and ex-athlete kind of informed your relationship with some of your ex-professional or ex-training partners? Has that had any crossover? Because obviously now you're aware and you've had lived experiences. Plus, we've got our observations from the primary research. So has anything kind of come from that?
Yeah, I think I chatted through kind of the data with the Sport Wales nutritionist who looks after the group of triathletes that I was working with. So I think I found it tricky to kind of tell them myself because they're my friends. So it's kind of a tricky kind of act. But I think, it was better, I think, coming across from her. So she has kind of, I think, made some changes within the squad to make sure that people are kind of, looked after and supported.
Nice. I guess another little side shift we're going to go down now. So obviously you've had your kind of, in fact, we'll touch on, hopefully it's not too emotive. So obviously you got through, you represented in the Commonwealth Games. That's a massive career ambition of yours. Then you retired, you said early age 24, if I'm right.
23, yeah.
23. So what drove that? Because I still know that you don't train like the average Joe. I think you did a marathon the other day, didn't you, or something ridiculous like that? So there's still, and you probably did it in about 25 minutes. So what drove the retirement, and then we'll walk into where we are now and how you sort of have navigated the space as a sports nutritionist.
Yeah, I think obviously I kind of got back to training in around the October time, so built up really slowly and then performed really well in a race that was in March. I think it was March or April time, and that was the race that qualified me for commies and European Champs. So I just had a really great race, and those were kind of the key ones that qualified me. And I think the lead up to commies I found quite difficult from kind of a nerves perspective. I think I'd come from doing literally no training to suddenly doing a huge race, and it was like everyone I knew that I hadn't spoken to for years was messaging me saying, "Oh my God, congratulations." I think that probably took its toll a little bit. And then, even I remember kind of on the day of the race, my coach was kind of saying, you're okay. But I did not want to race. I was so nervous. It was just, I was terrified. I think the race itself was kind of an incredible experience, but I think I had a bad swim. And if you have a bad swim in a triathlon, that's pretty much game over. So I remember kind of, I look back and I am kind of, it's frustrating, but equally kind of I've got to take from like the experience, like the crowds were amazing. It was such a good experience. Then following that kind of commies was kind of a big lead up. Then it was a few weeks later on to Europeans, which was kind of another amazing experience. And I performed well at that race. I was happy with that. But then after that, another 2 weeks later, I had another qualification race to try and qualify for under 23 Worlds. And I ended up just pulling out of that race after, I think, not even the first lap of the bike, because I think mentally I was just kind of exhausted. I needed, well, mentally and physically, I just needed kind of a big break. But we had a relay again the next day, so I had to do another race. And then after that, I had kind of a few weeks off and just started getting back into training. And I didn't want to. And I think I was so motivated to get back from having been through kind of reds and things like that, that then I kind of felt like I'd done that. And then I was kind of doing it for myself. And I kind of had this reality check of, I don't know if I want to do it for myself. The motivation just wasn't there. And I think it aligned with kind of all of my friends being in roles where they were kind of progressing in their careers. I wasn't a funded athlete. So, you know, some races you wouldn't have to pay for, but ultimately it was a big kind of sacrifice financially. I was coming to the end of my master's and I was thinking, how do I do this? So I think looking back, there were a lot of things I think going on, and I am not a very patient person and I tend to panic and kind of, once I've got my mind set on something, it's kind of, that's it. And I'm trying to get better at that, because I think it definitely, it doesn't always work in my favour, but I think, that was kind of the tipping point that, I stopped.
Thanks for sharing. I think it's really interesting to hear about the nuances in sports, because people often assume, oh, look, we've got somebody who's been in the Europeans and Worlds and even Olympians, right? They expect them people to be living a really comfortable life, when often that's not the case. And we see them on TV or otherwise. And like you say, everyone and their friend messages you and puts that pressure on. I think it's really great to hear that kind of open approach. So can you walk us through life post MSc? I know you've had some good mentors along the way, and you've done lots of things out of your comfort zone. But can you just talk us through, and for those that are listening?
Life post MSc. Well, what did I do? So I ended up getting a job, but I got a job in recruitment, which was nothing. I think when I stopped sport, I just needed a break from sport kind of altogether. I got a job working in Bristol. So I moved, I'd lived in Cardiff and I just associated Cardiff with triathlon. And I thought, right, I'm going to go somewhere new, kind of new start. And got a job working in tech recruitment. But first, before that, I went traveling with my friends. So we went around Thailand, went to kind of New York with my partner. So we did kind of, various things to kind of, I guess all these things that I've kind of not been able to do.
You never had the chance to do.
You kind of have spent my whole life going, oh, I can't, I've got training. So the novelty of that was definitely kind of exciting to be able to say yes to things. And then I started the recruitment job, which was like, the people there were absolutely lovely, but I mean, I don't mind saying I literally got fired from that job. I rocked up on a Monday morning and I got pulled into the office, having literally put my lunch in the fridge, had my coffee, and I hadn't made enough deals, so they wanted to get rid of me, which was kind of, I mean, thankfully I had already kind of come to the conclusion that recruitment wasn't quite for me. It was, maybe, I know you said, James, I've done things out of my comfort zone, but this maybe was a step potentially too far.
How did the competitor in you respond to that? I think this isn't for you, is it? Yeah. Were you ready for it? I'll show you.
Well,
I'll be the best.
I had kind of come to that conclusion myself. So I'd already started doing some sport nutrition work. I think I'd kind of come to the realization that I wanted to do something that I was kind of really passionate about. Yeah. And I'd kind of had my break from sport and kept on kind of, navigating my way back. I kept on thinking, why am I still going for runs and things like that? Like, I just realized I do actually love sport. I'd already started doing a bit of kind of sport nutrition work with Mike Naylor. So he was a contact of mine that I've got from, I actually went to see him when I found out about kind of the osteopenia and things like that, because I just
Okay.
I just want to see someone who I can trust completely and just make sure I'm doing everything kind of right. So yeah, Mike was amazing in that respect. And then when I was kind of not loving my role, I just dropped him a message to see if there was anything that I could do to help. And yeah, he was really kind and let me kind of do some bits for him. So yeah, I was really enjoying that. Then I got the news that I wasn't really working where I was, which I guess, yeah, it was a shock because
Everything happens for a reason.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was a bit of a shock, but yeah, luckily I'd kind of started the foundations. But that's the thing with kind of sport nutrition, quite often starting out is you do work for free. And that was kind of my plan, was to kind of hopefully stay in my role to eventually start getting paid and then leave. But I'd ended up kind of, not quite managing that. And I think that is something that's really tough when you leave kind of your MSc, is kind of you're looking at opportunities. There's kind of so many people and potentially not always the roles there. And working for free, unfortunately, kind of it does help you get your foot in the door. So I think that's something that I guess looking back, I didn't really kind of realize how important it was, even if it's just kind of one day a week or an evening a week that you're doing, kind of what you learn from it is kind of so valuable to then once you actually start working. And yeah, weirdly, kind of the recruitment role that I did, there's so many transferable skills that I did not realize were going to help me going forward. So I think whatever you're doing, there's going to be some kind of value in it, despite the fact that it might not be exactly what you want to be doing. It's probably helping.
Actually, on that note, what was your undergrad?
My undergrad was sports studies, but I did my dissertation around kind of nutrition side of things. So there was always kind of a slight nutrition element, but not kind of completely.
Yeah, okay.
So then now you're doing the bits and bobs, and then you got the role at Bristol City. Obviously you can't disclose everything, but you're there a couple of days a week. You're in a sport that probably isn't your number one sport in the world. I'm sure they won't be offended in me saying that you're not that. I think you've played, you're a big football fan. But how have you found that transition, and any tips or advice that you might give people that are maybe skeptical and or otherwise about, you've walked into a very male dominated environment. I know the guys there are really nice, but you've walked in on that environment and you've been given a big role across men and women's football.
Yeah, well, first,
and actually, sorry, just to add to that, it would be great to understand both from the job perspective and also from the getting the job perspective, so the application.
Yeah.
So yeah, both sides.
Well, that's just what I was going to say, is it was James who just messaged me one day and said, have you ever thought about football? And funnily enough, I just got a role with Lucy Wainwright for a couple of months, just supporting her with younger FA girls. So yeah, immediately kind of responded to James and said, definitely. So I think James was delivering kind of an Isaac course there. So yeah, James let me know who kind of the head of performance was. So I reached out to him and managed to secure an interview. So that was kind of how I ended up getting that role. And then in terms of kind of the job itself, so it's split kind of, a day with it's a day and a half with men and a day with the women, but half a day I do from home. And yeah, to be honest, I absolutely love it. It's been kind of a huge kind of learning curve, because there's many aspects that I hadn't kind of done before, even things like working with a chef. So yeah, that was all kind of new to me. So there was kind of various different kind of dynamics that I had to get used to, and kind of planning. I'd planned menus, but specifically, I guess, for the players around kind of their needs and working out kind of the away games, home games, and how to kind of coordinate it all. So that was all a bit different, but kind of, I think, I just kind of love it. I think there's so much to nutrition that is kind of, you've got obviously kind of the food aspect, but then I think the great thing about working in a team is trying to then individualize it as much as you can with each player. And I think I really like kind of that aspect of it, as well as kind of I guess working with people. Like I really enjoy kind of, yeah, working with individuals.
Then that's what it is, right?
How long have you been there now?
I think 4 months. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
It's a lovely training ground. I got so jealous I was there and I was like, oh, it's a nice place to be doing a body comp course. I was looking out at this beautiful football pitch thinking I was still going to make it. And then
I know.
and then they're like, a job's going. I was like, oh, I'd love it. And yeah, really nice, like so like purpose made place. Um, on the kind of another side of things, have you thought about or considered doing anything in the tri or endurance world? Because obviously you've got 2.5 days a week, which is locked down, and you're enjoying that. Obviously with your expertise, and I know that online coaching as well as nutrition is a real big thing in endurance space. So have you ever kind of touched or thought about that, haven't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I've set up my own kind of practice or consultancy that I'm looking at. I just haven't quite, because I've had some other bits going on, I haven't quite launched it yet. So I'm waiting for kind of the dust to settle a bit and then to start kind of, yeah, helping individuals in their sport. Yeah.
Well, let us know. We can
You
always.
want to focus on, yeah, we'll definitely promote it.
Thanks.
Do you want to focus on sort of the triathlon and endurance in that, or is this another one where you're like, oh, we'll see where it goes?
Yeah, I think I'm just kind of quite open. I guess, yeah, I think if you'd asked me kind of a year ago if I'd been working in football, like I've said, definitely not, but I absolutely love it. So I think kind of, yeah, being open to kind of any opportunities that, yeah, I'm able to kind of do, I'm definitely keen to do.
And one thing I'd say to the listeners out there that might be, in their studies or thinking, oh, this is so competitive. Oh, I've read all these stories. You have to go to certain institutions to do certain things. I would say that, Izzy's been an example of reaching out to people in a really genuine manner, offering support within her kind of scope of practice, and then also always coming back to the basics and the fundamentals, which I remember you always messaging me saying stuff like, James, can I just pick your brains for 5 minutes? I'm really appreciative. Like it's always really kind of authentic and it's never been an issue. And you've kind of said, I just want to check this. Is that all right if I check this? And that's kind of what students sometimes forget, that they're part of an alumni network, irrespective of what uni you go to. I don't know any uni that would turn around to someone who's a good egg and say, no, haven't got time for you.
No, yeah.
So there's a bit of a narrative out there that that's not the case, but actually I can assure you, and we've had all the course leads on all the SENR accredited courses have come in and say this, and I can assure you that everyone will talk to their alumni and give them advice. And I think that's what you're really good at from my experiences. You've come back and said, James, can I have this advice on here? This is what I'm thinking of doing. I've got this research and blah. And then that kind of helps build confidence. I know I'm not putting words into your mouth, but from what I've seen from you, I think that's really valuable for other listeners to hear because it helps breed confidence. And then with that, you can kind of, do your own thing and move on.
Yeah.
And it sounds as well like there's a difference because it sounds like you come with a specific ask or question, not just so what I would caveat is it's probably not worth. So one question I always get from people is I've reached out to so many people and they haven't responded. I'm like, okay, well, what have you reached out and said? And they're like, I've reached out and said, can I have a coffee? I'm like, okay, but why? Like, what is it about that person you like? And they tell me, and I'm like, okay, well, did you tell them that? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you've got to be specific. Like, I will say first thing, I will ignore anyone that just emails it. Well, no, that's actually a lie. But like, if someone repeatedly like, can we just have a chat? I'm like, okay, but why me? Or what do you want from this? Like, there's got to be an outcome. It sounds like you're specific.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think some things I did because I think I definitely lack confidence, and I think it's tricky because I guess we're working in an area where there's kind of an evolving science. You've got to keep up to date with kind of the research, and you're also hit from different angles of people saying various different things, and you're thinking, okay, right, I know that's not right, but you need to kind of be able to justify it and explain to them why.
Yeah.
Especially when, there's quite a lot of noise in various different areas. So, just little things like when I kind of set up potentially going down the route of doing my own kind of practice, I reached out to kind of a few of my friends, and my brother's girlfriend kind of put me in touch with one of her friends who wanted some help with her nutrition. So I had kind of a few video calls with her. I also helped out kind of my a friend who's kind of an elite rugby player, and just kind of doing calls with them to where the pressure isn't really there, kind of it just really builds your confidence, and then you're able to kind of create templates and write-ups for them that you can then share with them. And then equally then if you're going into an interview setting, you've got kind of material that you can use as examples as well, which helps them. But I guess that comes back to the specifics as well, is I'd probably get questions from them that I'd want a bit of kind of James's backing with, which I'm very fortunate that James was very helpful. But I guess that's how I was specific, is that I'd worked with kind of friends of friends.
I'm kind of living vicariously through my students now, see, Sinead. So I'm kind of how I get by my day-to-day admin job. Can you just, I suppose, to start finishing up, I'm just conscious of time, and it's been really, really valuable. Can you give any advice or insights on how you have managed walking in on different environments? Because you've told us you've been exposed to multiple different things. I know, from things like Harley Street to the women's football to Bristol City, that big environment, high pressure, high money. How have you managed that? I know, is there anything in particular or advice you'd give to people that might be doing so or thinking about doing so?
I guess as long as you have confidence in what it is that you're saying, it doesn't really matter what the setting is. Like, that doesn't really change. So I think as long as you've done the work, you've done the reading, you understand kind of what it is that you're saying and why you're saying it, then any questions that kind of come your way, you're kind of well equipped to answer them. And I think just making sure that you know your stuff, and you'll be all right.
Nice.
Feels like a bit of a parallel to competing as well. Like, if you've trained, you can be nervous in a race, but you've got it.
I know, weirdly, I always think that, at least I haven't got to go and do an hour or 2 hours of kind of max effort. I'm just stood up or sat down, so it's not too hard.
The context is important. And just to finish off, how did we get on in the marathon the other day? Are we going to become an elite marathon runner soon?
Maybe. I did actually. I mean, after the race, not an elite.
Which one was it?
I did Lisbon. So.
Oh, cool. Oh, hilly.
Yes. Okay. I was told it was flat, but
no, definitely not flat.
It was hilly. It was. It was hard. It was hard, and it was. It was far longer than, I don't know. My longest run before it was 24K, so I had not done nearly enough for it, but it was good fun. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I came like 3:15. I know you.
That's amazing.
That'll qualify you for something good for age, isn't it? Get you into London.
Doesn't that qualify you for Boston? For a woman?
No.
Is it not? Surely it's sub-3 for a woman.
I was going to say, surely it's got to be sub-3, which now I'm thinking I am quite keen. I'm
That's definitely doable.
Try and get sub-3. But I think I need a year
I'm
off.
going to Google this now.
Nice.
What's the marathon qualifying times?
Have we got it? For our age, Sinead. I mean, I don't want to put you in my bracket, but I mean, good for age might be different, right?
It is
3
hours 30 minutes.
Oh,
women in the 18 to 34.
And then I feel a trip to the States.
There we go. You're in.
Well, I guess it's a nice way to finish up. I know I've been bugging you for ages, Izzy, about coming on this one, and really appreciative of your kind of openness and transparency, because sharing those insights is really powerful, and it carries over with other chats we've had before with other people and practitioners, and just how you've navigated that, and I think the insights of how you've gone around, really openly about these jobs in recruitment and so on, to now to formed hopefully a really long and successful career in this space. So we will share socials and stuff for those that want to follow you, and we will make sure that when you have released the brand, everyone know about it too. But thank you for your time.
No, thank you guys
so much. It's great to chat.